So we thought, we've been doing some different things, and I was like, Frank, what should we talk about? Some good ideas. I was like, we've done movie reviews. We're going to do more in the future, but we decided to do our top five things in poker movies that they get wrong. Things that, like, kind of, as poker players,
make you cringe.
Yes, make you cringe. And so, I'm just gonna throw this out there. My girlfriend, we went to a movie recently, and there was like a medical scene. She's a nurse, so same thing. Like, it makes her cringe. So, like, us as poker players, we see things, we're like,
that'll never happen.
Yeah, or it's just weird, or it's different, and you're like, it's. But what people think, is that's reality. So let's dive right into it. Number one, fake chips. Have you seen this? Like, I'm talking about, like, the fake.
Yeah, a lot of you get the plastic ones, and it's really weird, and you hear the sound. Even as a poker player, you're used to the riffling sound of chips, and then you hear the sound, you're like
that clanky plastic.
Yeah, and you're kind of cringe a little bit, and definitely.
So if you're used to, like, home poker games, like, you'll see a lot of those fake plastic chips. I'm actually looking at the grand poster right there. There they are. You guys can't see it here, but if you look at the grand poster, we actually did a review on it. I'm looking directly at it behind us.
Fake chips.
Yeah, the fake chips. So those are the chips that, like, you get at, like, Walmart, Kmart,
yep.
Target. Like, they're the special plastic ones. Everyone's got them in their house. They're great for playing with friends, but when you're in a casino, you're in a high roller event, high stakes event, you're in a big tournament. The casinos have the clay
chips,
the specialized chips. It has their name on them. They're a little different. They have a different texture to them. They're not the cheap plastic ones, because obviously if they use them in the movie, in the real casino, people will be bringing them in from home. So that's why that doesn't work. I get that they can't maybe brand, like, they can't put, like, Bravado on and have it in a movie.
Sure.
But they could put something on there, like, it's just.
Well, I think some of the, when you watch a movie, something that small may not be as prominent in the picture for people to see. But again, like like you said about your girlfriend, like watching a scene in an ER where she's sitting there looking at the little items. As a poker player, we're looking at the details.
Yes.
I mean, as a poker player, you're taught to look for details, in the game itself. So you're watching the movie and you're into poker, and you're like, all right, look, oh man, I don't believe they're using those chips. Like, you're sitting there.
Yes.
So maybe because they're smaller, maybe they think it's not a big deal. The good thing is, and not any specific movies, but I know some of the more recent poker movies, they hired poker players to come in to look at some of the details to correct some of these items, hopefully.
Yeah, no, that's it's something that hopefully that's getting better. This is number two, and this is like an all-time classic. If you've ever watched an old poker movie, an old cowboy movie, this is in every one. So I'm gonna break this down. First, what I mean. So there's what's in poker is called table stakes. Basically, the money that you have on the table is what you're playing for. Okay, but in these old movies, number two, it's when they raise all in, and then all of a sudden
keys come out.
Yeah, all right, I raise you $1 million, and then he's just going, well, I got property to my house and my farm, and they keep raising each other things that aren't even on the table. They're just things that aren't on the game, and they just keep re-raising each other. That's not the way it works. And I know if you're probably a poker player listening, you understand that already.
Sure.
You can't bring things, but the general public doesn't understand that. They think you can just keep raising. You could lose your house in a game. I've never not even played in a game, nor have I ever heard of a game where you could raise whatever you want at any point.
Well, at some point, somebody has more than somebody else. I mean, it's impossible to really have a fair game, so to speak, without
they're
having
like,
the table
I raise you $1 million, and he's like, all right, well, I can go get it. I can find somebody that has it. It's like, what? No, it doesn't work like that.
The car keys come out. That's the classic,
the James Bond scene.
I got the keys right here. Yeah.
Well, you know what? There was a scene in what was a casino, the newer Casino Royale with James Bond, and actually they're playing poker in the resort. And so he tries raising it off the table, and the dealer actually says it's table stakes only. But they're basically like, screw you, lady. And they decide to do it anyway, and they're raising it, and he actually wins the guy's car and steals his girl. Typical James Bond.
And while we're on the James Bond, and I know it's not on our list, but if you don't mind, I'm going to add in a little caveat
2.A or whatever.
2A or 2B. The other thing that bothered me about, and I don't remember if it was that movie or a different James Bond movie, was the one big hand where everybody had a monster hand. There's like 6 people in the hand.
That was the same movie, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So then it's like Full House over, or, another Full House, quads, straight flush, royal flush.
Yes. It was something like mathematically that
yeah.
was just so ridiculous that.
Yeah, I mean, if you get 2 big hands, great. If you get 3 big hands, it's like, wow, that's a once in a long time thing to happen. But there, I think it was 5 or 6 big hands, and everybody's chips basically went in the middle. They had the placards, I think, in that movie.
That that might be a good future movie review as the Casino Royale. That might be a good one for future. We haven't done that one yet. All right, going on to number 3. This is what we call a string bet. You see this a lot too. It's kind of the same thing, but you go. You got the gold cow. I should have brought the cowboy hat. I should have broke it out here. Like, I call your bet and I raise you another 1,000. So that's what's called a string bet. You cannot do that. So once you put your
the
chips,
back and forth motion as well. Where
once you announce, that's what it is. So if you say you call, let's say let's say Frank bets $100. I say I call. That's it.
Done.
It's done. The 100's that's capped. I can't go. I call your 100. And I raise you another 200. Like, doesn't work like that. That's what's called a string bet. Once the bet is placed, you can say raise. Now, if I said raise, then I could put out whatever I want. But once you say call or see, now the old movies they go, I see your bet.
Yeah.
Why am I throwing this bad accent out? This whole
I was going to ask. I didn't want to go there.
I see your bet and I raise you this amount. So you'll hear them say that. Yeah. Same thing. Seeing your bet, calling your bet. That's a call. That's just
you're done.
You're done.
And the reason for that is, somebody could potentially pick up on your reaction to that. That's initially, something. So if I say to Hoagie, "Hey, I call your bet," I look at him and I see his face droop. And I raise, now I'm going to raise him. Like, that's part of the reasoning for that. And as well as, trying to mislead somebody. So,
yes.
And also with the back and forth. So there's basically a line in poker. Sometimes it's an imaginary line. Sometimes
it's enforced. It depends.
Yeah. And sometimes, basically,
like
we used to be in front of your cards.
So this is kind of like here on ours. This is
correct.
You can kind of see on our poker table, we have like kind of a line here. It's hardwood. So like kind of pretty much past here is, that's the game field right here. Like once you're entering into that world, like that's where the money's going. You can't pump fake, like see the reaction when I put a bunch of chips and then go, I'll pull it back. Like you can't do that.
Yeah, and also it used to be they used to be in the tournaments especially, they'd be pretty good with the cards. So if you had your cards here, you'd always have your cards in front of you, in front of your chips.
Yeah.
So your chips are back here. Once you go past your cards, you are done. It's not
bets are being bets are being counted.
And I've even had where I remember at a final table real quick at a tournament, and I think it was at Borgata, and there was maybe 5 or 6 people left, and I literally went to go make a bet, and same thing, cards were here because I always made sure I did the right thing. I pulled the chips. I literally started sliding the chips. And the guy goes, raise. And I didn't get the chips even, like, from behind my cards. And I'm like, the dealer's like, he didn't act yet. I was like, I check. It's like, he screwed up. I'm going to take advantage. So be careful.
So going right in there to number 4, which kind of blends into that because we were talking about that, is tells. But in the movies, obvious tells. Okay, so first off, in the movies, they're way too obvious, and I get they're trying to sell it to the people watching at home, but it's like way too obvious. Like, there's no one you go in and all of a sudden like, oh, if they do this exact thing with their hands, that means they have, a monster. Now, there is different things. There are tells that stand out, people
absolutely
looking around, people doing things, but they're generally not that obvious. Like, they're not, unless you really know what you're looking for, they're generally not obvious. And there's also things called reverse tells where people are acting. Because as humans, that's one of the great things about poker is you can lie in the game. You can bluff in the game. So you can pretend you have a good hand or pretend you don't have a good hand. So there is opposite tells. So that would be even a harder thing to display on a movie set to someone that doesn't understand at all. Like, he's pretending.
You got to learn the tells before you learn the reverse tells.
The reverse tells, yes. So I think in the movies there's a lot of obvious tells. Now, again, in the James Bond movie, one thing they did get right. Remember the guy, like, every time his eye bleeds, he has a big hand. But then it was reversed because he was actually faking out. So that was an example of reverse tell. So James Bond did get a couple things right in that film.
Absolutely.
The latest, or not the latest one, but that one, which was a more recent one. But yeah, like the Teddy KGB.
Yeah, I was going to say the obvious one for any poker fan is the Teddy KGB and Rounders, with the Oreo cookie and
if he
cracking
has
it and listening and
yeah, he doesn't have it. Like it was just so obvious of a situation that it just. But again, it makes for good Hollywood movies. We get it. But it's not always like, oh, every time he takes a handkerchief out and wipes his head, he definitely has the hand.
And ironically enough, the thing that most poker players learn, hopefully relatively early to save them money, is the guy who is the obvious. He Hollywood so much that he has a big hand. It's you make a bet and he's like, oh man, I don't believe it. Oh, you really
never trust the speech.
You really got the speech. Yeah, you really got. I race. It's like never trust the speech. TJ Cloutier always said that, right? Never trust the guy. Makes the speech and then raises you. Get out.
Yeah, that's there. So anyway, that's our top 5 things to look out for. Things
that was 4.
Wait, no, we have 5, right?
Obviously.
4. Oh, we got one more. I lied. You know why? Because we had the 2.8.
We had the 2A. So
I lied. We got one
more.
You
bonus. You got
okay.
A bonus.
The last one is this: that in every movie, like one out of every 3 poker players is a cheater, completely degenerate
scumbag.
Now, do they exist? Yes, unfortunately,
sure.
they exist. But is it like every person? No, there's a lot of great people in the poker world. There's a couple bad apples out there. But in the movies, it's like, every other guy is like a hustler, a cheater. They're trying to get one over.
There's always angles going on in movies. There's always somebody.
Yeah, some backdoor deal.
Yeah, right.
Like I said, does it happen? Yes. But to that effect, no.
And I get it. I mean, in the movie, you're trying to, like you said, play it up, try to show all aspects to some degree. You definitely want to, you got your antagonist in the movie, what have you. And, I get it. But, yeah, like Hoagie said, there's a lot of good people. There's definitely, unsavory people. But there's people like that in every industry and every game.
All right. So now that was our top 5.
Now we got
plus
5.
some little bonus ones in there. Things in movies that kind of they get wrong or pet peeves, if you will.